Hello everyone and welcome to the New York Napoleons Week 6 team builder of the SDA. We are doing this live like last week, but unlike last week, I'm not going to make it one upload. I figure it's going to be better as two. So we're just going to do it this way this time. Hopefully there's not as much chaotic energy going on in the battle, or at least in the team builder part of it. The battle, whatever, I don't care. There can be lots of chaotic energy. But my opponent this week, unlike Brendan, is not someone that I have quite as much of a immediate rapport with, and I want to make this a little bit more professional. So JB Westside, coach of the Las Vegas Cinderaces, will be the person we are taking on this week, and his team is really, really good against mine. He's got Rabombi, Alolan Persian, Victini, Hitmonlee, Rotom Fan, Rillaboom, Nidoking, Dracovish, Audino, Doublade, and Hippopotas. So he does have Dracovish with Sand if he wants it. My opponent is stream sniping. Oh, I mean, sure. If that's how you're going to beat me, that's how you're going to beat me. So anyway, he does have the Dracovish with Sand, and as a result of that, we are just going to be rocking out with dual priority Choice Band Scizor. I think Bullet Punch is really, really spammable, but the things that resist it, that can maybe take a hit from it, like the Dracovish itself, and Rotom Fan, etc., don't really want to take a quick attack as much, so it seemed like a good secondary option for priority to just have. It's a non-stab option, but at least it's going to be an option to click if the Dracovish is just out of range of Bullet Punch. It's something else. I can U-turn if I'm predicting a switch, if I think he's going to preserve things, although things like the Victini, the Dracovish, they're hard to predict a switch. Even if he does, it's way more punishable if I don't go for the attack, the priority attack, than it is rewarding to actually click the U-turn. So U-turn and knockoff are there for things like if I'm in against the Doublade, I can click knockoff and try to get rid of that thing's item, stuff like that. Next up, we have the Quagsire coming this week. This is going to be a fun set for Quagsire. It is Scald, Toxic, Recover, Protect. Hey, it's a LAN league, so we're going to run it. It doesn't make me happy about it, but it will continue to remind me and everyone else why 20-minute timer is a much more offensive style, and anyone who doesn't build things for the timer that they're playing in is doing it wrong. In one of the two timers at least, possibly both. I may not win with this set, but it certainly is a nuisance to my opponent's team, and it can just do a lot of damage. The Protect is really, really nice to stall turns of Sand, to get extra turns of Toxic Chip, to scout for choice items on things like the Victini, and then the Recover is really good for getting my HP back up as well. And Scald is mostly just a good neutral move, and if I can get a burn on something like the Dracovish or something like that, that would be also really nice. I don't need the Toxic for that, but again, stalling Sand turns and being able to just wear things down passively is what this Quagsire is going to be all about this week, and I do think it actually has a decent matchup. Even if I don't appreciate that I'm bringing it, I do think it is the best mon for the situation. Next up is my Clefable. Clefable this week is going to be rocking out with the Leftovers and Magic Guard, and it's just a more defensive build. I actually don't know how much I love this set, but Knockoff is super useful against my opponent's roster, and Stealth Rocks are also super useful, and Clefable was the mon that seemed to do both the best, and so I just decided to bring it with the Knockoff and the Rocks, and then the other two moves are just Softboiled Moonblast because it's Clefable. It is defensive because it needs to be able to take a hit from Dracovish, from Victini, stuff like that, so we're just trying to be bulky, tank hits, not die to the best of our ability, be able to click knockoff on a couple things, maybe Moonblast a couple things. Moonblast actually has pretty decent coverage on things like the Persian, the Dracovish, etc., so it's not a bad move to have, but I mean, it's mostly just a supportive Clefable this week, and hopefully going to be an early game nuisance, and then just difficult to break in the mid game. Next up is my Drapion this week. It's actually going to be Scarfed Drapion this week, since it does outspeed his entire roster Scarfed, and I do think it helps a lot to have Scarf Knockoff flying around. Like I said, Knockoff is actually really good this week. EQ is also super solid, and I went with the Leech Life in the last slot because I really don't have another move that I want, and it hit the Nidoking. I also have Poison Jab for that, but if I think he might go into something that's going to take a Poison Jab better, I figured I'll throw Leech Life in the last slot. There isn't another move I'm really looking for, and if Persian is there, maybe I'll be able to hit that. But this thing, just throwing moves around, seeing what it can do early game, or maybe if like Victini isn't max speed Jolly and Scarfed, I'll be able to outspeed that even after like a Flame Charge or something. So it's got a lot of utility to me. It can take basically any one physical hit, not necessarily on the special side. But hopefully this thing does the work it needs to do. Next up is my Mew. Mew this week, I'm rocking out Spikes, Knockoff, Toxic, and Softboil. It's exactly the same reason as Clefable, except this one actually I put on Toxic because I can't safely click Knockoff if my opponent goes into Victini, because if Weakness Policy, Flame Charge Victini wins the game. That's it. It's over. So Toxic is so much safer to click. I can take both physical and special attacks from the Victini pretty well. I don't love taking V creates, but because of the speed drop, I will be able to then outspeed and be able to recover. And that will hopefully allow me to take the hits I need to take. And the special Victini set that I expect him to bring is a lot. I'm mostly specially defensive, so it's not going to be as big of a worry. This thing can set up spikes over time, and eventually that'll just wear down alongside the rocks my opponent's team. Since Hitmonlee is the only spinner on my opponent's team, my opponent has webs with Ribombi, and if webs get up on my side, they're annoying. But if my opponent wants to remove and doesn't want to use Hitmonlee to do it, then they'll also get rid of their own webs. And so I'm just going to force that without bringing my own defog, and hope that that's a good enough way to get my opponent to remove hazards by just stacking them against them. And lastly, we do have the Spectrier coming this week. It is going to be Agility, Taunt, Shadow Ball, Dark Pulse, Spectrier with Weakness Policy, because Audino switches into it. I go for the Agility. I go for the Taunt so it can't Toxic or Thunderwave, and then I just go for Dark Pulse as it starts clicking Knockoff. I win the 1v1 against Audino. I spin block with this thing against the Hitmonlee, which, yeah, can also go for a Knockoff, but potentially doesn't kill me with the Knockoff either, depending on like whether he's like choiced in some way or life orbed. And we're just going to be able to get some damage off of the Spectrier. Keeping my own hazards up because of spin blocking is also just good in this game, even if the Spectrier doesn't sweep. So you may have noticed that my team has like no real finisher, and that's sort of because I'm sort of expecting the only way I'm going to win this game is to chip things down and then eventually beat them with Scizor. And that's not a great game plan against Dracovish Victini, but it's what I got. So we're going to do it this week, and hopefully we're going to be able to find a way to win this. So I will get connected with my opponent, and I will see you guys all back here tomorrow if you are on YouTube, or in the next like 3 minutes if you are on Twitch. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care, everybody.